Hello, everyone. It's me. Back in 2015, the Ig Nobel Prize in Physics was awarded to two Chinese-American scientists, Professor Hu Li-Day and Dr. Yang Pei Liang from the Georgia Institute of Technology. Their winning research, falling under the category of fluid dynamics, was a bit unusual. What was it about? Urination. We won't get into the details of their research, but let's just say the conclusion was quite surprising. Any mammal weighing over 3 kilograms, from cats and dogs to hippos and elephants, including humans, takes about 21 seconds, plus or minus 13 seconds, to pee. Sounds silly, right? Well, it caused quite a stir at the time. Many people didn't believe it, questioning whether the 21 seconds was made up. The Japanese, known for their meticulous nature, were particularly skeptical. So, NHK Television recruited 2,000 volunteers to collect urination data. The average time, once calculated, shocked everyone: 20.5 seconds. It perfectly matched the results predicted by the fluid dynamics model. Finally, Professor Hu and Dr. Yang could breathe a sigh of relief. But wait, there's more. This wasn't just a one-time thing. 4 years later, in 2019, Professor Hu and Dr. Yang won the Ig Nobel Prize in Physics again. This time, it wasn't about peeing, but about pooping. They were studying an Australian animal called the wombat. The wombat has a skill that's considered a legendary feat in the animal kingdom. It poops square-shaped poop. It's like someone carefully sculpted it by hand. It's truly amazing. But how does the wombat do it? It's remained a mystery for a long time. But Dr. Yang and Professor Hu, through dedicated research, finally cracked this century-old puzzle and deservedly won the award once again. All right, I know many viewers like to eat while watching, so let's talk about something else first and save the wombat's square poop for later. Let everyone finish their meals. Besides being famous for its square poop, the wombat is actually full of other fascinating features. For instance, their most deadly weapon is their massive backside. Despite their bulky appearance, they are faster sprinters than Usain Bolt. There's also a rumor that they actively protect other animals during forest fires, making them true heroes. The wombat is quite popular in the Australian animal kingdom, so today's episode will be all about the legendary wombat. Just by its name, you can tell the wombat is a marsupial. It's incredibly stout, with short legs and a practically non-existent tail. It gives off the impression of a fat bear, hence the name wombat. Of course, in terms of size, the wombat is nowhere near as big as a bear. A fully grown wombat is roughly 1 meter long and weighs around 30 kilograms. Since they usually curl up from a distance, they look like a furry ball of meat, giving off a sense of clumsiness and laziness. The wombat's laziness is actually related to its diet. They are strict herbivores and mostly eat grass. Occasionally, they'll munch on tree bark or roots, which are all low-nutrient foods with minimal energy. This leads to a very, very low metabolic rate. The wombat's gut is about 10 meters long. What they eat today might take 2 weeks to fully digest and absorb. It's almost like the sloths we talked about before. So under normal circumstances, the wombat is extremely sluggish, spending most of its time sleeping or eating. They need to eat for about 8 hours a day. Lazily munching on grass is their usual state. This does match their appearance. But in reality, the wombat has another side, especially the baby wombats. They are extremely playful and mischievous, constantly hopping and bouncing, chasing each other around. Although they seem a bit chubby, they are actually very muscular. When facing predators or fighting for territory, they unleash incredible athletic abilities. Their full sprint speed is beyond your wildest imagination, 40 kilometers per hour. Just imagine these tiny, short legs on a fat body, making them the most surprising sprinters in the entire animal kingdom. When wombats fight, it's truly intense. 2 balls of meat colliding, surprisingly not boring at all. They shove, bite, and roll around. Just watch them move. If you're looking for the most agile fat creature, the wombat might be the winner. Another thing about wombats that baffles scientists is that after a fight, they'll lay down and dig the ground with their paws. No one knows why they do this. Some say it's a form of intimidation or humiliation, but even the loser digs, making it seem unlikely. Others speculate that they hate the other's smell and want to remove it from their paws, but that seems a bit far-fetched too. After all, their poop smells worse. It's truly perplexing. You can only marvel at the wombat's baffling behavior. In 1920, Australia experienced a massive bushfire, burning over 170,000 square kilometers. It tragically claimed the lives of over 1 billion animals, both big and small. But online, a heartwarming story emerged. The wombat became a hero of the bushfire. They allegedly invited animals that couldn't escape into their burrows, saving countless lives. This earned them a massive fan base. Is this true? Zoologists have said that, while the wombat might not be as heroic as the story portrays, the burrows they dug did indeed save many animals. Even if it wasn't intentional, it's still a big win. Actually thinking about it, the whole wombat digging burrows thing doesn't quite make sense. Digging requires a lot of energy, and usually it's small animals like mice or rabbits that can manage. The workload isn't too big. Even larger animals like rabbits are skilled diggers. Armadillos eat ants and termites, high-protein foods, so they have the energy for it. But the wombat, an herbivore with such a large body, would you think it's worth the effort to dig a burrow? Well, they do dig. So the wombat has become the world's largest burrowing herbivore. And they don't just dig, they dig professionally. First, their claws are incredibly strong, perfect for digging. Their 2 front teeth, like rodent teeth, continue to grow throughout their lives. They use these not only for munching on grass, but also for gnawing tree roots when digging. But what's most impressive is their revolved pouch. It opens toward the back, so when they dig, dirt doesn't fall inside. It's ingeniously designed. With such professional design, the wombat has truly mastered digging. For example, a 2006 study found a wombat burrow that was 89 meters long with 28 entrances, forming a vast underground network. While the surface temperature fluctuated by 24 degrees, the burrow's temperature varied by only 1 degree. This is why it became a haven during the bushfires. Also, the wombat seems addicted to digging. They don't just dig one burrow. In 2012, a study found that one wombat had 14 burrows it switched between. The Totu Sainku, literally, cunning rabbit has 3 burrows, saying is weak compared to that. This also means that many of the burrows are empty. So even without a fire, many animals take advantage of the empty burrows and stay with the wombats. This includes small animals like various types of rats, wild cats, rabbits, and lizards, and larger animals like kangaroos, pythons, and even koalas, which usually live in trees, have been seen in wombat burrows. But the most unbelievable thing is that the wombat's arch nemesis, the Tasmanian devil, also frequently visits these burrows. Talk about an uneasy alliance. Speaking of this, some viewers might have noticed a problem. Burrowing animals dig to escape predators. But the wombat is so big and their burrows are like hotels. Anyone can enter, even their enemies. What's the point? Here's where the wombat's most deadly weapon comes in. Its butt. Everyone knows about butts. The general impression is that they are fleshy and thick. The wombat looks fat and chubby, so its butt must be super soft, right? Wrong. The hardest armor on their body is their butt. The wombat's skin on its backside is incredibly tough, almost a centimeter thick. Beneath that layer is a 2-centimeter thick layer of cartilage. Combined, they form a shield we can call the butt shield. This shield is extremely strong and sturdy, and almost no predator can bite through it. How does the wombat use this butt shield? It works in conjunction with their burrows. The wombat usually stays near the entrance of their burrows, not venturing too far. If they encounter a predator, like a Tasmanian devil, dingo, or fox, they quickly retreat to their burrows. Once inside, they turn their butt towards the entrance and use their wide backside to block the hole. This solves the problem of the entrance being too big for predators to enter. The butt shield acts like a door, keeping the enemies out. Also, because the wombat has almost no tail, enemies have no place to grab onto. They can also kick with their hind legs as an extra defense. This is the wombat's basic defense, but the wombat might also have advanced defenses. Zoologists have discovered that in some wombat burrows, the remains of dingoes or foxes have been found, some with crushed skulls. They learned that the wombat has even more potent tricks up its sleeve. If an enemy tries to bypass the butt shield and force its way inside, the wombat will use its butt to press the enemy's head against the wall. Over time, the enemy could suffocate. If an enemy tries to enter from the back, it's even worse. The wombat will use its butt and forelimbs to clamp onto the head and use its hind legs to lift and press upwards, like cracking a walnut. It's truly brutal. This bizarre defense method is truly unique in the animal kingdom. Alright, I think everyone's finished eating by now. Let's talk about the famous unsolved mystery. Why is the wombat's poop square? Initially, people thought maybe the wombat's anus was shaped that way, but later CT scans showed that wasn't true. To unravel the mystery, they needed to dissect a wombat and study its intestines. To obtain the necessary samples, Dr. Yang and Professor Hu reached out to Dr. Scott Carver, a wildlife ecologist at the University of Tasmania. Dr. Carver had a job in the area, dealing with wombats killed by cars. Based on his dissection experience, he confirmed that wombats do indeed have square poop inside their intestines, so the question became how the poop forms. The team dissected more wombat corpses and discovered the secret. It turns out that the muscles in the wombat's intestines are unevenly developed. If you look at it from a cross-section, there are 2 areas with thicker muscles and 2 areas with thinner muscles. The thicker areas are harder and less deformable, while the thinner areas are softer and more bendable. When the intestine contracts, it squeezes and pushes the feces backward. The squeezing continues until it reaches the end, forming a square shape. It's like a production line. This production line can produce 80 to 100 pieces of square poop overnight, each roughly 2 centimeters in size, consistent in quality, and highly efficient. This research won the 2019 Ig Nobel Prize, but in reality, it didn't fully explain how the poop became square. The squeezing process only made the cross-section of the poop square, like shaping a square bar. The process of how it became a cube still wasn't clear. Carver was the one who completed the final step. His inspiration came from the famous Giant's Causeway. The different cooling rates inside and outside the rock caused the formation of regular hexagonal structures. So, Dr. Carver wondered if the breakpoints in the wombat's poop were related to the drying speed. To test his theory, he used cornstarch paste to mimic moist poop and used a heat lamp to simulate different drying speeds. The results showed that the drying speed did affect the breakpoints. The faster the drying, the smaller the gaps between the breakpoints. The slower the drying, the larger the gaps. The drying speed inside the wombat's intestine would cause the poop to break at intervals of roughly 2 centimeters, which is close to the length and width of the cross-section. This is why the wombat produces poop that's almost cubic. There's one last question. What's the benefit of square poop for the wombat? The common theory is that square poop doesn't roll as easily on slopes, so when wombats use it to mark their territory, it helps with more accurate location. I personally find this explanation a bit far-fetched. Even spherical poop wouldn't roll that far, would it? I think it's more likely related to sexual selection. If, in the wombat world, square poop is more attractive, then over time, all wombats would poop squares. Finally, let's talk about the wombat's lineage. In biological classification, the wombat belongs to the order Diprotodontia, family Vombatidae, subfamily Vombatidae. There are 2 genera and 3 species. Besides the common wombat, there are 2 species of hairy-nosed wombat. The main difference lies in their noses and ears. The common wombat has a pointed nose and small ears, while the hairy-nosed wombat has a pig-like nose and larger ears. That's what makes them look like little pigs. Historically, the Vombatidae family used to have another member, the giant wombat. It's estimated to have weighed 200 to 300 kilograms and was a massive creature. But about 40,000 to 50,000 years ago, after humans arrived in Australia, the giant wombat, along with other large animals, went extinct. The situation is different for the 3 surviving wombat species. The most common wombat is a species of least concern, and its population is relatively stable. The hairy-nosed wombat was declared a vulnerable species in 2014. The rarest species is the northern hairy-nosed wombat. Its population is estimated to be less than 100 individuals, only found in one forest park in Queensland. They are critically endangered and are one of the rarest mammals in the world. The wombat, as an Australian specialty, is quite popular locally. For example, during the 2000 Summer Olympics, someone designed a mascot called Big Butt, Big Bear Fatty. Later, this mascot became even more popular than the official mascot. Some athletes even chose to hold this mascot during their award ceremonies instead of the official one. It's absurd. The wombat's popularity might be surprising to many. But when it comes to popularity, we have to mention one of the wombat's relatives, the koala, also known as the koala bear or the sleepy koala. They are also part of the Wombatidae family and have many interesting stories to tell. So in the next episode, we'll have the koala as our protagonist.